the idea of being not connected with any
We're
other...
getting away from the sexuality so much now because it's getting so overpopulated. We're thinking more
Right.
of
Well, just
work,
think of being, just the individual being.
Work and education, the left brain.
Is it possible for a person to find a place in their mind, in their being, that is separate from sexuality, that is separate from all these culturally enforced and biologically enforced ways, and to simply be?
Yeah.
Is that a...
And we don't want to be too escapist either.
Well, is that escapist, or is that a fundamental, is that a foundation from which to move out? I mean, is a man essentially a man? Is that what you are first, or are you simply a live consciousness, a sentient being first? And that's so much of what we are. This debate goes on all the time of nature versus nurture. You know, who are you? The product of your environment,
both,
the product of your family.
I think the people that are most cognizant in that area see both effects, because some things like IQ level relate so much on nature, or other things relate more on nurture. Mm-hmm. It's a combination of both. That's the thing of it. The middle way, a lot of times, that's why I try and combine the right brain and the left brain. Like you have your worship service and your family, and they support each other, just like your education and your work. They support each other, your left brain.
Now, you mentioned the worship service, and so this ties into the spiritual nature.
Because I go to the Quaker Church, and I tithe, and I've been attending since 1989, and God means a lot to me in my life, because I think God guides me in my work. But I'm not a Christian. I just believe in God. I believe in all religions, because I think a lot of religions fight over their faith with other religions. But I think if we're good people, we don't want to fight with people. We just want to be better. And
as a scientist and an empirical thinker, have you come across, or have you not come across this conflict between empiricism and the essentially unprovable, or at least empirically
I'm trying to prove that. That's what I'm trying to do in religion. I'm trying to combine, you can't combine the left brain, and the left side of a horizontal axis you have mass, and then you have plasma. Then on the right side, the right brain, in biology and religion, you have bioplasma and the auras, and you go from a tangible mass to an invisible aura. There's a shading there, a continuum. Just like you go from philosophy to art, you go from philosophy and logic and mathematics and numbers.
You suggest like a color spectrum where one thing fades into another thing, into another thing, into
like
another
the horizontal and a vertical axis. The vertical axis is Aquarius, and that's mathematics, and then you go into geometry, and then you go into symmetry, and then you go into harmony, and then you combine the harmony and the outer aura, and you have a harmonious aura, and that's like the spacing of the objects, like I was talking about. You have the spacing of the objects, and that seems to be the anthropic Gaian principle. Things seem to be a certain way, because if God didn't make them that way, the universe just couldn't exist. It was just a tiny fraction different. In some ways, it wouldn't be here.
Well, that's very interesting, and it's kind of mechanistic. Your description is like of this mechanism that holds things together.
That's trying to bring science into religion, trying to combine the both of them, trying to get a synthesis. I'm trying to combine religion and science, and I'm trying to combine philosophy and art, because in art, too, you find the best artwork is some of the best work, like Jackson Pollock's work was based on mathematics, using mathematical symmetry, like in chaos-complexity theory, to substantiate those paintings that he did, those abstract paintings, and that was combining mathematics with harmony. And
those are interpretations after the fact, though, because there was a dynamic immediacy to the production of those.
I mean, they're connected together. There seems to be a connection, just like the dichotomy, because the yin and the yang aren't in conflict. They're harmonious. They connect with each other.
Right. And in our conversation
just
right
like
now,
the individual and the group, the individual connects with the group. That's like in you have these molecules, and then you have these molecules in a group, and thermodynamics, and you have the statistical probability of the molecules being in a certain way. Like gas, you can measure gas, the pressure, because there's millions and billions of molecules, but
to make predictions based
on a
on
large,
all these molecules.
yeah, because that's like free will and determination. You have the individual and free will, but you have determination in the group, and you combine them together, and then you have the dichotomy between free will and...
But what if you have one molecule? Is that going to behave the same as
no, because you need
millions and billions?
No, because that's a different gestalt when you combine the things in a group. That's like the wave and the particle. In quantum physics, you have the wave as the group, and then you have the particle as individual.
So in biology, the individual cell is nothing. However, in humanity, the individual person is still a unique entity.
But the culture is beyond the individual, because you have the cell, and then you have the multicellular organism with the brain, and then you have the human beings with culture, and the culture is the highest level. I couldn't figure that out. For the longest time, I was puzzling whether the individual come before the group or the group come before the individual, which was the highest form, the group or the individual, and the group comes last, I guess, because that would be culture, and that would be beyond...
But can you imagine an individual who never had a group?
Yeah, because I was thinking about that. The ants and the simple animals, sometimes the simplest animal is a group, and the more complex animals are individuals. But David Hines from Mensa, he's working with me on my ideas to write them up. He seems to think that too, and he seems to have he seems to understand my ideas so well.
Well, we know that if an individual baby is born into the world, and someone says, okay, there you go, be free, little child, be free, little baby, that baby will die.
Yeah.
I mean, it takes a tremendous amount of nurturing and care, years and years and years and years.
Because the more advanced we are, the more nurturing it takes to raise us.
So again, back to your question, which came first, the group
but
or the individual?
There's so much interconnection. It's really hard.
You can't make an individual without a group of at least two.
You need both of them. That's like that interspacing of everything together in the anthropic Gaian principle, where you have the universe is spaced a certain way. Because just like, why are we here? Why is there something rather than nothing? That's sort of a sign that we have a purpose in life.
Right. And yet, I mean, kind of going along with that, you cannot deny the individuality of your own self. It is a paradoxical thing. That is kind of the mystery of life.
Yeah, in the West we seem to have that. It's overabundance of that in the West, where the East is more the group.
Mm-hmm.
And we need both of them. But I think we need a group a lot in the future, the United Nations and world government and world trade and the World Wide Web, because we need to, with nuclear weapons and global warming and the difference in wealth. When we raise the standard of wealth in the third world, we cut the growth rate in the population to a zero growth rate, and that's one of the most vital things, that we curb the population growth.
This is politics, though.
I don't know. I think it has a religious aspect too, because I'm deeply religious. I've suffered so much in my life in previous times, and so I turn to God, and God seems to comfort me. And I tithe. I don't have a lot of income. I just get minimum Social Security disability, but I do research. But I tithe because I think God protects me during the week if I
Well, again,
go to church.
This comes back to this paradoxical nature of the human, that an individual person can have these an emotional connection to the world around them, an emotional connection which kind of drives them, which makes things so obvious to them, and yet it can change and be so different for different people.
Yeah,
whereas for yourself, tithing is a very important thing. There are other people, no, I would never do that, you know.
Because churches cost money just like everything else.